Sinister stories.
David and Jenna were up late one Saturday night, lounging in their dimly lit living room. They were enjoying some mind-numbing recreation. As they continued to fill the room with smoke, they suddenly felt extremely hungry. They scrolled through the menu of their favorite late-night food spot on their phones, looking for something to satisfy their cravings. The bright glow of their screens was the only light cutting through the darkness that surrounded them. "Let's order our usual," David suggested. Jenna agreed, and they quickly placed an order for burgers and fries. As they waited for their food to arrive, they passed the time by watching a horror movie, laughing at the predictable jump scares and over-the-top acting. A notification dinged on David's phone, announcing that their delivery driver, Martin, was on his way. "Looks like it'll be here in 10 minutes, David said, glancing at his phone. Jenna nodded, her focus on the movie. In no time, a knock echoed through the quiet house. David opened the door to find the bags of food on the porch, the warm bags releasing an inviting aroma. The couple dove into their meal, savoring every bite and laughing as they exchanged jokes. Once they were done, an idea struck David. "Hey, why don't we complain that we didn't get the food? Maybe we'll get a refund," he suggested with a mischievous grin. Jenna was hesitant at first, but eventually agreed. They both pulled up the app on their phones and reported their missing food. Within a few minutes, they received a notification saying their complaint was being processed and that they would hear back soon. "Easy money," David said, leaning back with a satisfied smile. They continued watching the movie, and before long, they forgot all about the food and the complaint. A few hours later, the couple received an email notifying them that they would be receiving a full refund for their meal. They exchanged a high five, pleased with themselves. But something about the situation seemed off. Jenna felt a creeping unease, a nagging sense of guilt, but she brushed it aside. As the night went on, strange things began happening. It started with little annoyances, faint knocks on the door, only to find no one there when they checked. Jenna's phone would ring with unknown numbers, but no one would be on the other end when she answered. David and Jenna tried to ignore the odd occurrences, but the unease grew stronger each minute. As night continued, they watched another horror movie. The lights suddenly flickered and went out. They sat in darkness, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the house settling. "Did you pay the electricity bill?" Jenna asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yeah, I did," David said, his tone tense. "Maybe there's a power outage." They reached for their phones to check for updates, but the screens remained dark. The power was completely out. As they fumbled through the darkness, a loud thud sounded against the front door, making them both jump. David approached the door cautiously, Jenna close behind him. He peered through the peephole, but all he could see was darkness. "Nothing out there," he said, turning back to Jenna. Then the thud came again, this time louder. "Maybe we should call the police," Jenna suggested, her voice trembling. Before they could decide, the front door creaked open slowly, as if pushed by an unseen force. They backed away, hearts racing. In the doorway stood a figure, cloaked in darkness. As the figure stepped forward, the dim light from the hallway revealed Martin's face, twisted into an unsettling grin. "You thought you could cheat me, huh?" Martin's voice was low and menacing. "Do you know what that refund cost me?" David and Jenna stumbled back, fear gripping them. Martin stepped inside, holding a knife. "I paid for your meal," he said, his voice trembling with rage. "And now I am barred from working this neighborhood. Now you will pay for it too." Jenna and David tried to run, but Martin's swift movements blocked their path. The house echoed with their screams, the sound swallowed by the night. Jenna rushed toward the back of the house, their panicked breaths echoing through the dim hallway. They pushed open a door leading to the back porch, trying to escape from Martin's wrath, but found it blocked. Martin must have anticipated their move, barricading the exit to trap them inside. Jenna's heart pounded in her chest as she and David scrambled back, looking for another way out. Martin followed them, his twisted grin never leaving his face. His steps were slow, deliberate, as if he was savoring their fear. David grabbed a vase from a side table and hurled it at Martin, hoping to slow him down. Martin deftly dodged it, the vase smashing against the wall. The sound of breaking glass only seemed to fuel his anger. He lunged toward David, slashing the air with his knife. David dodged the attack just in time, and Jenna grabbed a fireplace poker nearby, swinging it at Martin. The metal clanged against the blade of Martin's knife, deflecting his attack. Martin's eyes narrowed, his rage evident as he pressed forward. Jenna and David found themselves cornered in the living room, with Martin slowly advancing. David's eyes darted around the room, searching for a weapon or an escape route. He caught sight of the back window, partially open. It was their only chance. "Jenna, the window!" David shouted, trying to distract Martin. Jenna followed his gaze and nodded. They rushed toward the window, but Martin was quick to intercept them. His knife grazed Jenna's arm, drawing a line of blood. She winced in pain but kept moving. David grabbed the heavy curtains, pulling them down in an attempt to tangle Martin. The fabric wrapped around Martin's knife arm, but he quickly freed himself, slashing the curtains to shreds. David and Jenna managed to push open the window and climb out, fleeing into the darkness of the backyard. They stumbled through the overgrown grass, struggling to navigate in the pitch-black night. Their only thought was to get as far away from the house as possible. They could hear Martin's voice shouting after them, echoing through the night, but they didn't look back. David led Jenna through a gap in the fence and onto the quiet neighborhood street. They didn't know where they were going, only that they needed to put distance between themselves and Martin. As they ran, Jenna's bleeding arm left a trail of blood, and they knew they couldn't keep going for long without medical attention. After what felt like an eternity, they found themselves near a 24-hour convenience store. The bright lights and the presence of other people gave them a sense of safety. They hurried inside and asked the clerk to call the police. While they waited for help to arrive, they told the clerk their story, the details barely making sense as they tried to catch their breath. The clerk offered them water and bandages for Jenna's arm, and they sat down, trying to calm their racing hearts. When the police arrived, David and Jenna recounted their encounter with Martin and how he had come after them. The officers took their statement and promised to search for Martin, urging them to seek medical attention for Jenna's wound. David and Jenna followed the police's advice and went to the hospital to have Jenna's arm treated. Once they were safe, they found themselves unable to shake the lingering fear of Martin's return. They knew he wouldn't give up so easily, and the thought of his twisted grin haunted their dreams. The police investigation into Martin's whereabouts yielded no results. It seemed as if he had vanished into thin air, leaving no trace behind. David and Jenna decided to stay at a friend's place for the night, not feeling safe in their own home. As the weeks passed, they tried to move on from the terrifying night, but every unexpected sound or shadow made them jump. They never wanted to order food delivery again, fearful that Martin might come for them. The guilt of their actions weighed heavily on them, knowing that their deception had put their lives in danger. David and Jenna's bond became more fragile as they blamed each other, but they still couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Martin's presence lingered in the back of their minds, a constant reminder of the night that changed their lives forever. David and Jenna tried to rebuild their lives after their terrifying encounter with Martin. They never ordered food delivery again, and instead, they preferred to go out and pick up their meals from local restaurants. They became more cautious, making sure to always stay in well-lit areas and never go out alone. Weeks passed without any sign of Martin, and the couple began to hope that he had moved on or been caught by the authorities. They tried to forget about that fateful night, but the fear still lingered in the back of their minds. Every creak in the house and every shadow in the night made them uneasy. One evening, they decided to treat themselves to takeout from their favorite burger place. They drove to the restaurant and picked up their food, enjoying the sense of normalcy that had been absent for so long. As they drove back to their house, they laughed and chatted, trying to push away any lingering doubts about their safety. When they arrived home, they settled in the living room, ready to enjoy their meal and watch a movie. The house was quiet, the only sounds coming from their conversation and the clinking of silverware. The night seemed peaceful, but a sense of unease crept in as they remembered the events of the past. As they ate, David heard a faint scratching noise at the front door. He paused, glancing at Jenna, who had also heard the sound. "Did you hear that?" Jenna asked, her voice laced with anxiety. David nodded, setting down his food. "I'll check," he said, trying to sound calm even though his heart raced in his chest. He walked to the front door and peered through the peephole. He saw nothing unusual, just the dark porch and the night beyond. He opened the door slowly, glancing around cautiously. There was no one there, and he was about to close the door when a shadowy figure appeared from the side of the house. David's heart skipped a beat as he recognized Martin, his face twisted with a sinister grin.
Miss me?
Martin's voice was low and chilling. David tried to slam the door shut, but Martin was faster. He pushed his way inside, knife in hand. David stumbled back, shouting for Jenna. She ran to the front door, her eyes widening in horror as she saw Martin standing there, blocking their only exit. "You can't escape me this time," Martin said, advancing toward them. David and Jenna tried to retreat, but Martin was relentless. He swung the knife, narrowly missing them as they dodged and fought back. David grabbed a nearby lamp and swung it at Martin, knocking him back momentarily. Jenna grabbed a chair and smashed it against Martin's arm, causing him to drop the knife. For a moment, it seemed like they might have the upper hand, but Martin quickly recovered, lunging at them with his bare hands. He knocked David to the ground and turned his attention to Jenna, his eyes filled with rage. Jenna fought back, grabbing anything she could to defend herself. She threw a nearby vase at Martin, hitting him in the face. He staggered back, giving David a chance to get back on his feet. Together, they pushed Martin back toward the front door. With a burst of strength, they managed to shove Martin outside and slam the door behind him. They locked the door and rushed to the back of the house, knowing they needed to get out and find help. They climbed out of a back window and ran down the street, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. They then realized they had forgotten their phones in the house. They then found a neighbor's house with the lights on and banged on the door, begging for help. The neighbor let them in and called the police. After a few hours, the police had not yet arrived, and there was no sign of Martin. So the couple decided to just go home to get their phones. They walked cautiously the whole way, and when they finally arrived home, they sat down on the couch and gave a big sigh of relief. Then a sadistic laughter could be heard, and then followed by Martin exclaiming, "Welcome home." The next day, the authorities found the house empty, with no signs of struggle, no bodies, and no sign of David or Jenna. The front door was left ajar, and the eerie silence that settled in the house left an open question. Had Martin truly exacted his revenge, or was something even darker at play?